Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about a case out of the state of Arizona known as the ASU stabbing. And the reason we're going to talk about this is because through the investigation circa a couple of weeks ago, it was discovered that this was clearly and obviously a premeditated attack, and the victim in this attack was targeted, quote, because she seemed like an easier victim by the perpetrator. However, despite that overwhelming evidence of premeditation for this attempted murder, despite additional evidence that there were other targets that were also to be stabbed by this perpetrator, we are greeted with the headline from the Daily Mail that the prosecution has decided to downgrade the charges for this particular perpetrator, and this case didn't make national news, of course, due to the races of the people involved. You have a black woman stabbing a white woman, and it was a premeditated attack, yet charges are being lowered, and nobody is talking about it in the national media. But we're going to talk about it today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Now at 10, an attack at ASU. Tonight, we're learning how a stabbing unfolded on the West Valley campus that landed one student in the hospital and another behind bars.
So this is the opening of the news segment from a couple of weeks ago where they talk about how they examined the court documents, and according to the documents, she told investigators that this was a pre-planned attack, and there were two other students that were going to be attacked, just like I described in the open, but they decided that the victim in this particular case, pictured here, was an easier target, would make an easier victim for this perpetrator. So again, understand that this is 2 weeks ago before they actually downgraded the charges. So the news segment is going to reflect a reality-based sentiment that this person deserved to be charged with attempted murder.
Jonathan, what'd you find out?
Hey, Mark, the details are chilling. These court records taking us inside the mind of a 19-year-old woman now accused of this heinous crime. She told investigators she was planning that attack for at least a day, and there were plans to attack two other people, but she chose her victim because she thought she would be the easiest target. Tonight, new court records are providing disturbing details into what investigators say was a random attack on the ASU West Valley campus Thursday morning.
Just agonizing screams of pain, and clearly you can tell that it was someone who was fearing for their life.
Investigators say a student stabbing another student inside of a classroom. Police say the victim running out for help. Documents show the victim suffering deep cuts to her tricep and left rib cage.
So the one thing I don't like about this local news segment is that we end up in a situation where they're describing things as a random attack, no motivation at all, but they just told you minutes earlier or even seconds earlier that this attack was planned a full day in advance, and this woman was picked because, again, she was seen as an easier target than the other people. But as you heard, based on the injuries, you have a deep laceration in and around the neck area, or the tricep area, and then you also have a stabbing in and around the rib cage. These are serious wounds. This is obviously a deadly threat, and this student decided to launch this attack in an ASU classroom, which is insane in every possible way. But again, let's go to the Daily Mail article so we can read into the new updates so you can understand what the reasoning is or what the rationale is for lowering the charges, because I don't think that these charges should be lowered at all, in my opinion. In fact, I think you should add in the additional charges for the other two people that she was also planning on attacking. So it says the judge has thrown out the charges of attempted murder against an Arizona college student who nearly killed a classmate in an unprovoked knife attack in front of horrified students. Casey Sloan was facing multiple charges after launching herself at Mara Defron, age 19, as the pair arrived for class at ASU's West Valley campus on September 19th. The bubbly student needed emergency surgery for a ruptured spleen and other injuries to her chest and arm after Sloan stabbed her twice in a premeditated attack before being hauled off her target by fellow students. 2 counts were dismissed at a court hearing Monday, leaving Sloan facing the lesser charges of aggravated assault with a prison term between 2 and 9 years. We are beside ourselves, Mara's devastated mother told the DailyMail.com. So the only way there would be justice is if my daughter actually died, close quote.
Police say as the victim was being led to surgery, she asked officers who was behind the attack and why she was targeted.
Now, the victim, of course, ends up being hauled off for the emergency surgery in order to save her life, and she asked the obvious question that would be asked if you were stabbed by somebody that you barely knew that was just in your class at the beginning of the semester, which is, who the hell is that person and why was I targeted? And again, we find out that she was specifically targeted because the attacker in this instance believed that she was an easier victim than the other two people that she wanted to go after in this attack she planned a full day in advance. But a judge has decided, you know what, I don't care, I'm gonna toss this out, even though again, the attempted murder counts were the first counts that were brought forward. This was a serious attack. This shakes the core of the ASU campus, but for some reason, Sloan gets to get away with this, even though she massively outsizes the victim in this particular instance, and again, nearly killed her and intended to kill her.
Attempted murder in the first degree, that's a Class 1 felony. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument, a Class 3 felony. Interfering with an educational institution, that's a Class 6 felony.
Casey Sloan, now accused of causing that chaotic scene, facing a judge.
This is analogous to a school shooting.
Prosecutors claim that Sloan came to class to hurt someone and had been planning the attack the night before.
So as you heard right there, the judge originally in this pre-trial hearing decided to take this very seriously, attached the attempted murder charges, attached other appropriate charges. I was going to get nitpicky about the interfering with an educational institution charge because that seems petty compared to all the rest. But considering they ended up dropping the attempted murder charges, despite the fact that this is clearly and obviously an attempted murder, for me, I maybe you gotta attach all the charges you can in case another judge decides to do what happened in this case. And again, the first one made it clear that this is very analogous to a school shooting, and it absolutely 100% is. You have a person who pre-plans an attack, targets a vulnerable victim, decides to spring it out of nowhere. The attack victim has no idea why the attacker is doing this, and this is very common in what we see in school shootings. However, it seems like one of the things that impacted the decision to remove the charges is that the perpetrator of this attack described low self-esteem as one of the problems that she's dealing with. And no, I'm not kidding about that. That's in the Daily Mail article as maybe one of the reasons why the judge decided to go soft on her.
Prosecutors say she described what she was about to do in a letter to her family and that she struggled with self-worth issues. Prosecutors also claimed that she considered attacking two people, including a veteran, but decided on her victim because, quote, she was an easier target, and that she knew the victim's first name, but nothing else. Prosecutors calling the attack unprovoked.
So yeah, you just heard it right there. They're saying that the attack is unprovoked. That is obvious. They're saying that this person might suffer from mental health issues. And of course, they brought up the self-loathing and all of that as if that matters to me at all when you pick up a knife and you decide to stab someone. And by the way, I just want to bring up that if you're experiencing mental health issues, obviously I believe you should get care and treatment and all of that. But the fact of the matter is, as soon as you pick up a weapon, as soon as you represent yourself as a threat to others, all of my sympathy goes away for you. This woman, again, despite her mental health issues, was able to pre-plan this attack. She was able to write letters to her family apologizing because maybe she thought she was going to go out in a blaze of glory, fight back against the police officers. Who the hell knows how this would have resulted? And the idea that now we decided we're going to be merciful to her because mental health and self-loathing, and what a sad sack sorry life that this girl actually had when she stabbed up a classmate, somebody who's going to be traumatized for life, somebody who nearly died, is absurd. And what's even more absurd is that in this particular case, if we're talking about a first-time offender and you end up downgrading the charges, you're likely going to end up with a plea bargain. And the maximum sentence for the charges that she's facing now are about 2 to 9 years. So if you plead to the lesser charges, which are disturbing a public education facility or whatever, there is a chance that based on the first-time offense, that this girl will be dumped out on the streets relatively soon, if not as soon as the plea deal goes through. So we might be looking at a situation where there's no jail time for a random act of violence. And again, Zebra challenged this situation, flip the races, and ask yourself if this would be a national news story if immediately you got a downgrade in charges had the perpetrator been white and randomly attacked a black person, again, without any indication of racial motivation, it wouldn't matter. It would be turned into national news. The judge would be named and shamed. But in this particular case, this is just going to kind of float by. This is going to be normal. And the victim is just going to have to deal with the consequences and likely deal with the fact that the perpetrator is going to be released. But it's okay because she had low self-worth. She was self-loathing according to what she told the police. And honestly, isn't that so sad?
Saying Sloan likely suffers from mental health issues, but also calling her a danger.
The state is concerned that Ms. Sloan is an extreme danger to the community.
Sloan tonight being held at the Maricopa County Jail on a $250,000 cash-only bond.
Again, just think about that initial hearing. They tag the attempted murder charges. The judge refers to this person as similar to a school shooter. They say that she is a definite danger to society. They end up putting up a $250,000 cash bond, meaning you have to put up the full amount in order to get this person out of jail pre-trial. And then suddenly, 2 weeks later, the charges are reduced. Suddenly, 2 weeks later, we're talking about her self-loathing. We're talking about how sad her life is. And honestly, doesn't she kind of need a break? She just stabbed up a white girl in her classroom. Does that really matter? Have you thought about the current political climate? Isn't it kind of evil, white, and racist for you to want the perpetrator of this stabbing to be locked up if this perpetrator is a self-loathing black woman? Now, I know a lot of people out there in the left-wing media are going to say that the real perpetrator of this particular crime is poverty, and what we need to do is go out and arrest poverty. And if anybody in that classroom can describe what poverty is wearing, then we should put out an APB for it immediately so we can finally stop them and yet another treacherous crime that they committed. But I'm going to have to object to that, and quite seriously so, because the Daily Mail, being the tabloid that it is, actually gives us some information on the background of the perpetrator, on what privilege she grew up in, and again, we see that privilege carry through right here with this reduction in charges. So notably, Sloan told police that she had issues with self-worth and had decided to launch her attack the evening before at her $784,000 home that she shares with her family in the Glendale gated community less than a mile away from the school. She had singled out Daffron as an easier target than the veteran that she originally had in mind for this potential kill. And a search of Sloan's backpack revealed a series of handwritten letters addressed to family and friends apologizing for what she was about to commit. Now, Daffron, the victim in this particular case, was equally mystified about the motive as she spoke to police just before going into surgery. "I'm just scared because I don't know why she effing would stab me," the sports business student said. So what's even more sad about this particular case is that according to the mother, when the attacker, Sloan, came after her, she actually tripped on her way before she reached her. And of course, not realizing that she was in a fight for her life, she attempted to help this person up, just seeing a stranger that she didn't really know trip, and that's when the stabbing was initiated. So in this particular case, you have a victim who has no idea why she was stabbed post the stabbing, but during this particular interaction was showing grace to the perpetrator, and none of that mattered. And despite the fact that you have the cold, calculating nature of this perpetrator on full display in this particular case, guess what? Nothing is being done about it. The charges are being reduced, and the criminal justice system is going out of its way to bend over backwards and aid and abet the criminal in this instance, and it's absolutely disgusting in every possible way. Now, of course, I'm going to leave the question up to you guys out there in the audience. I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a crazy situation at ASU that got crazier when a judge decided to toss out charges that are appropriate. Till next time.